All right, I think we can get going. So I'll start introducing the topic of the day. So welcome everyone to a new webinar on the Web3 CFO Club, which today is on setting up a finance function in Web3. So as a CFO, I would say even if you had an understanding of crypto before you took your CFO job, there is no formal onboarding in Web3 and the learning curve feels endless. In our Web3 CFO guide that we published last year, we interviewed over 250 finance and operations professionals, and 85% said that the tooling is insufficient. So I thought for this webinar today, let's have CFOs who've been in their job for a while now share the experience of how they're going about to set their finance function. Today, we're lucky not to have one, not two, but three CFOs from well-established Web3 companies. We have Quentin Ricomard, the CFO of Ledger, a staple name now for self-custodial wallets, which I'm sure most of you in the audience have probably used by now. We have Magdalena, the CFO of Gelato, a decentralized back-end allowing the automation of smart contract executions. And we have Jean-Baptiste Chenut, who we lovingly refer to as JB at Request Finance, the CFO of Request Finance, which is a platform to allow Web3 companies manage their crypto invoicing, payroll, and expenses. So on the agenda today, what we have for you. So first, we'll go through the challenges being a Web3 CFO. We speak a bit about the Web3 tooling available out there, treasury management, and some strategies for diversification. And the last one, I called it others, where we'll touch a bit on wallet management and the different Web3 metrics to measure performance. We'll also have a 10 minutes Q&A at the end. So keep your questions ready. You can already write them as we go along in the chat bar. Quick disclaimer, so this webinar is only for general information purposes only, and of course it's not a substitute for consultation with your professional accounting, tax or legal advisors. Before I tell you about the Web3 CFO Club, let's have the speakers tell us a bit about themselves, how long they've been at the company, and a brief overview of what they're currently doing as CFO. So Magdalena, can I ask you to start?
Yeah, of course. So thanks for having me. Briefly about myself, I actually have a very technical background. I studied mechanical engineering and business. So I'm actually quite new to the finance world, even though I've done venture capital in the past. So worked for different venture funds, European-based venture funds in seed and growth stage investing for 4.5 years before I decided to pivot to the crypto Web3 space and started working for Gelato a year ago exactly. And I'm doing, I think we touch on those topics later on, but I'm doing everything related to finance, treasury, liquidity management, all the fun parts.
Thank you. Quentin, can I ask you to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me as well. So I'm Quentin, the CFO at Ledger. So I got a very classical background. So I studied finance and I started as an auditor at Ernst & Young, and then I went to transaction services. Then I moved in financial control for many years in France and China, and moved back to France in oil and gas and pharmaceutical company. And I joined Ledger 5 years ago now, which is a while for a crypto company, and started at the head of FP&A and was appointed as a CFO just 1 year later. So it's now 4 years with that position as a CFO. And what I'm doing right now is we just closed a round. We just raised money on the market. So it was like 100% of my time. And now I'm a bit back to business and execution, I would say, on accounting, financials, treasury. I've got procurement departments, data department as well. A lot of stuff to do. but I think we're going to touch on later.
Congrats on closing the round.
Yes, congratulations.
Thanks.
And finally, JB.
Yes, so I'm JB and my background is close to Quentin. So I started at PwC as an auditor, and then I wanted to be close to tech environment. So I made a bootcamp training code. And then I had a first experience as a finance manager in a startup. And then I was granted as a CFO. And then I was the CFO of the first NFT marketplace. I discovered all the Web3 environment in this company. And I joined Request Finance 6 months ago now. And I'm the CFO of Request Finance.
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, like how many people are actually working at Ledger and Request right now?
We are 32.
And we are 700. And you?
And you?
30. So same size as Request, I would say.
Okay.
So about the Web3 CFO Club, we've been having a lot of new members, so I think it's worthwhile every now we have a webinar to tell you a bit more about what we're doing. So the Web3 CFO Club, it's a community of Web3 CFOs, as the name suggests, created by Request Finance, and we have two objectives with this community. First is to share best practices for Web3 financial operations. This is what we do on Slack. We have all our CFOs giving recommendations, sharing a bit about the tools that they're using. And also the second would be to allow yourself to network with your peers in Web3. Today we have 430 members, and the club has been growing really fast. Lastly, before we start, just a very quick overview about who am I. So I'm responsible to grow the community at Web3 CFO Club and organize different initiatives like the webinar we're having today. Next month, we're having our first in-person event in Amsterdam. It's going to be on the 20th of May. And this is exclusively reserved for our members. Yesterday, I was speaking with a member who said he doesn't really see the need to travel and come because there's a lot of crypto events where he lives. But I just want to say that this event is different because you will actually meet the like-minded individuals or CFOs who have the same struggles as you and probably can share insights that you wouldn't have had when you go to a regular crypto event. So this is what I want to say about our upcoming event. And lastly, last year we published a guide called the Web3 CFO Guide. And this year we're doing the second version of the guide. So if anyone is interested to be a contributor, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be sure to get in touch with you when the guide comes out. So with that out of the way, and lastly, I just want to mention this, that I have a podcast focused exclusively on Web3 accounting called The Accountant Quits. So if you want to learn more about Web3 accounting, feel free to check it out. So we're going to start with the first topic, which is challenges being a Web3 CFO. Like I mentioned in the introduction, most CFOs have not have a formal onboarding at their Web3 companies. And actually 99% said that they have had no formal onboarding in our Web3 CFO guide. So I want to ask our CFOs today that what were the challenges that you encountered when you first started as a CFO at your current company? Maybe Quentin, you can start, or Magdalena, feel free.
I don't mind. I can start. Yeah, to be honest, I think for me, when I started a year ago, the thing was that I was the first finance hire in general. So all there actually was, we had money, which was good because before I started, we just closed our Series A round. We had wallets and we had a TransferWise account, but that was pretty much it. So I think for me personally, the challenge was like where to focus on first, because literally there have been no processes in place, and I can't tell you if it's the right approach or not, but where I started first is with one of the biggest pain points we had, because and that really depends, I think, on the size of your company, but we received, for example, so many invoices from freelancers, from contractors, from bounty winners, travel expenses from people. So for me, one of the biggest pain points in the beginning was, how can I streamline this endless flow of invoices coming into our email addresses? Because all those invoices, they were also like not standardized. They included the wrong billing information. And oftentimes they were not sent on time or not at all. So I focused personally on the invoice management process first. And then I looked more at, like the company setup, which included, like our wallet setup. For example, we use Safe for like all our wallets that we have. And then looking more into like bank accounts, off-ramping, on-ramping, that kind of stuff. But I think the biggest challenge for me in the beginning was really on where to focus first, on how to set up like a working process end to end, from like receiving invoices to paying them, to also, setting up a treasury management process. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
If anyone wants to go
next.
So, Quentin, you want to speak or?
Go if you want.
Okay. So for me, when I arrived at Request Finance, the challenges were mostly figuring out how crypto funds were set up, and to understand the past crypto transactions. The first one is because each company has a singular crypto fund setup. So you need to make sure you know every company's wallet addresses, every safe addresses, and so on. Because if you forget one, your treasury estimation is wrong, and your content is wrong as well. So it's very important to have everything in mind. And for the past crypto transactions, it's easier when you initiated or you validated a transaction, but when it's about transaction, you were not in the company. Fortunately, we use Request Finance app, so I had enough informations to understand the context, the receiver, the spender, and so on. But for some transactions, sometimes you don't have enough information, so you need to investigate, and it takes time.
Oh, we lost JB there.
Yeah, we lost JB. So I can take it over if you want.
Sure.
So thanks, and sorry for there's a little darkness behind me, but I mean, the sun is going in the room, and so for those who are wondering, we can have sunny days in Paris. We have one today, so, but sorry for the background. So what was my challenge when I was appointed as a CFO? At the time I joined Ledger, I think we were less than 100 employees, and we were just selling hardware wallets. We are known for that. So it's like selling like other stuff. So no crypto bookings, no crypto treasury, but like we are selling hardware wallets against fiat, euros, USD. So it was quite okay, because like financial controls with a normal product. So it was okay. So I think the first challenges I had is when we started to get crypto in the financial. So in 2021, if I'm doing well, because now we are not only a self-custody and hardware wallet company. You can go to Ledger Live, which is a software, and you can trade through partners we are working with, and they are taking fees, we are taking fees on the trade, and we take that fees and revenue in crypto. The challenge was to understand how do we book crypto, in which accounting standards, how do we recognize revenue, how do we do the valuation of the asset, then how do we control the assets. So lucky as we provide control and security, so I use the ledger solution, but as you told that when you have your introduction, Umar, you don't have any onboarding as a crypto CFO. So I had to discover everything. So how do we book it in French GAAP? How do you book it in IFRS? So it was the main challenges, and you have to read, you have to speak to many partners to understand how they do. And it's quite like you're a bit in the middle of nowhere because you're like swimming in the middle of the ocean with no coast that you can see. And when you ask your crypto partner, it's like, depending on the countries they are registered, they don't have the same laws, they don't have the same things to do. It's like really new, and you have to choose and take the best decision for those bookings. The times you got low, the times you get an advice from like accounting authorities and stuff like that. So I think was the biggest challenges for me, this new asset class to book in the financials.
Out of curiosity, like in which currency are you doing your
Euro, French company.
Okay, yeah, understood. And how just follow-up question, because I'm curious, because I actually thought it's super interesting that you're on the webinar because you're dealing with hardware as well, right? You're not only having like this crypto revenue flow. So I was just curious, do you accept like, or do you get like stablecoin revenue in different currencies, and are you like swapping?
I mean, well, so we got revenue from trading activity from our clients. So we take a fee on the swap, on the buy, on the sell, on the staking, on the stuff they are doing on Ledger Live. So we got directly the revenue. The crypto revenue is going directly to Ledger Enterprise solution, the B2B solution we have. And I only take and keep ETH and BTC. When it comes to stablecoin, I just go to fiat.
Okay.
But I mean, for me, but I mean, this is my personal view, but I don't need stablecoin. I can have USD. Because there is a risk on USDT, there is no risk on USD. I mean, that's my view. And I'm not here to play with crypto. I'm here to protect the cash of the company and the cash visibility. And there is so much downside to keep too much crypto than upside.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to talk about this a bit later, right? But we also have way more fiat than before DPEC weekend. But yeah, I think we can talk about this later.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. JB, we're happy to have you back. Maybe could I ask you for some examples of operational challenges that you face with crypto transactions, like on a day-to-day or on a monthly basis?
So you mean when I have to manage some OPEX?
For example, you had previously shared with me, like, for example, bridging or swapping payments.
Yeah. So the main difficulty I have is that we use multi-sig transactions. So we need to initiate and validate a transaction. So because of the slippage, we need to synchronize the multi-sig transaction approval. And as we are a fully remote company, we are located in different everywhere, and I need to synchronize with Chris, the CEO, to validate transactions to avoid rejections. So this is like we need to put a process, a workflow to make sure the transactions I initiate for swap or bridge won't be rejected.
I think this is something that also Magdalena, you should be having trouble with.
Like from a process perspective, I think I don't struggle that much with it. I think it's always kind of difficult to like get signers on board so they all sign, right? So you can like execute fast. And what I've done and what works quite well, I think it's all about communication, right? And all those signers, you don't need all of them to sign, but you need to communicate in advance, hey, like once a week there's a slot and you need to sign stuff, because usually like swapping and bridging transactions, usually it's not that urgent, right? It's not a matter of like needs to be done now. Usually you can plan ahead depending on what you swap for or what you bridge for, or like what the purpose is. But for me personally, I can plan ahead. So usually I do that stuff once a week if I need it, and there's a dedicated slot in our calendars and we sync and everyone needs to sign. And I think it's just like also a communication thing within teams to make it clear that, you know, you should be there at that point in time, and it needs to happen because it's a critical part for the company to function efficiently.
Agreed. Quentin, would you have any such operational challenges on a daily or monthly basis?
Well, we always have, but when I mean, it's about managing crypto, right? It's about internal control. It's about who is doing what. You've got something like you have to run on is with crypto, for sure. At some point, you've got a wallet. Someone's got a wallet in the company. Someone's got an access to it and can have the full control of the wallet. So we don't have the same level with JB and Magdalena of internal control and processes, because we are a bigger company and this is completely normal to not have this kind of processes at the JB level and Magdalena. But I think the thing that is important is not to underestimate that part, because everyone is afraid of mismanagement when it comes to crypto, because one single person can do lot of things with crypto if you got an access to the wallet. So you have to put in place internal control, step to validate a transaction, step to invest somewhere. Lucky us again, this is what we do at Ledger, because we've got a solution for enterprise. I mean, it's a bit like a bank account when you want to prepare a trade, when you want to go from crypto to fiat, like off-ramp. I can prepare a trade, someone on the Treasury can validate, the CEO can validate, I can validate, but there is like exactly like a fiat bank account, traditional. And I think that's a first step when you have crypto. This is the first step you have to do with your wallet. There is many solutions. You can do multi-sig, you can do, you can create your steps. But I think that's one of the biggest operational challenges, because I mean, it was not seen like that since, like, for example, the FTX debacle, because it's about mismanagement. It's about, you know, playing with money of people or playing with money. I mean, just like that. You cannot give the control to one or very few people. And the conclusion is that you have to be in control as the CFO of the assets of the company. You have to be in control, but you cannot have the power to do it alone. It's really important, and no one has to get this power. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges.
Quentin, can I interrupt you? A lot of the companies are, I would say, smaller in size as compared to Ledger. Now, as these smaller companies are scaling, could you give an example of a good internal control that is more specific to crypto to have, let's say?
And first, internal control is I would say, do not let your too much treasury in a third party. Right? It could be an exchange, it could be, because you never know what's going to happen, and you do not have you do not own tokens when you let your money there. And if you do not own it, if you want to take back control of it, you have to ask the third party. So if the third party doesn't want to give it to you back, you don't have any solution, right? So you have to do self-custody. So when you do self-custody, you can have software wallet, you can have hardware wallet, right? So an easy way for, small or middle company is to, I don't have to say that, but I will say it, but you can take a ledger nano, and you could just divide the PIN and the 24 words between many players in the company. And no one can do anything on his own, right? And next phase is you can have Ledger Enterprise, which is like bank account for crypto with internal control and governance. Everything is, you can design what you want. So JB is preparing something. I can control it, and Magdalena going to do the transfer, something like this. But it's really important that you put, as you imagine it, a control. So an easy and cheap way is for sure a nano. And you've got control of your coins. You can trade it, and you can put like like homemade internal control, I would say. But it is really important because you will be never able to justify to your investors, to your clients that you lost funds, which is really important. You won't have any excuses, and it's not like a bank where you can recall because there is an issue. You cannot go to an agency to say, hey, I've got zero on my bank account. Can you please give it back to me? No, you don't have this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, self-custody, I think, is very important, right? And I think a lot of startups already use like Safe, or they might even use Ledger. I think one of the things that might become like more complex as you scale is you have owners on your Safe wallet, for example, right? And the owners, they can propose transactions and they can sign them. But at some point, as the company grows, like I think a question becomes like, who can actually propose transactions, and who should be doing that, and how many owners do you add to your Safe wallet, and how do you still ensure that as you scale, this becomes like a scalable process without adding too many owners, but still having like this level of security?
Yes, but something which is not natural with crypto, because crypto is like synonym of fast stuff, fasting. But as a CFO, you have to just take a step back and say, okay, crypto is treasury, it's like fiat. Okay, is it easy for someone in a company to do a payment or trade in fiat? No. Should be the same for crypto. That's it. You don't have to think that because it's crypto, it has to be fast. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that many people are doing. Probably we did it before, but you do not have to think like that. Otherwise, you can have many trouble to reconcile all the transactions and the thing. You have to be in control. And if the conclusion is to take like someone you trust in your company to be the validator and then you report everything, maybe it's one of the solutions. But you have to treat this problem as it is treasury fiat.
I agree.
I will move on to the next slide. It looks a bit the same, but it's a different slide. So this slide is about Web3 tooling. I'd say there is an urgent need for more crypto-native accounting tools that take into account crypto transactions. So you can use Web3 tools, Web2 tools, but that involves some workaround because a lot of them have, of course, not been built with crypto in mind. So the toolkit for Web3 is emerging, and I would say that now we need the CFOs to operate them. I want to ask you first, there's two questions here, but first I want to ask you, what tool has positively impacted your life as a CFO in recent times? Something that has been really useful for you? JB, would you like to go first?
Yes. A complex part for me was to manage the crypto accounting. And we decided to work with Cryptoverse, a crypto accounting tool. And thanks to this tool, I saved a lot of time. and it was exactly what we were looking for the transition between the transactions we made and what our CPA needs to integrate the crypto accounting into the accounting's global software. So I think, yes, CryptoWorks, it was not easy to find the good crypto accounting tool because of French standards. Quentin talked about it. And finally, with the CryptoWorks and all different kind of calculation we are able to do on the tool, we can manage easily the crypto accounting integration now.
JB, like a lot of CFOs are still managing their crypto accounting in spreadsheets and have not yet automated like a lot of these on-chain transactions, categorizing them before like fully exporting them to their main ERP. Could you give us an example of, just for maybe someone who's not currently using a crypto accounting solution, like a problem you faced before and how like this, you mentioned CryptoWorth, how it helped you?
Yes. So at Request Finance, we manage a lot of different crypto, lot of different tokens and networks. And one of the big challenges is to calculate the gain or loss on each transaction. And you have different calculation model, and we use the WACC calculation for the gain and loss. And thanks to CryptoWorks and their algorithm, we integrate automatically our transactions in the tool, and the tool calculates the gain and loss or loss of each transaction. And then we can extract, export a CSV, and our CPA can integrate automatically the CSV in the accounting tool.
Just out of curiosity, do you actually have any procedures in place? Because I know you probably receive all the fees you get in the tokens like projects pay you in, right? Do you have processes in place to automatically swap those tokens into ETH or USDC or? So
far, no. We don't swap the fees we receive. And it's a question we can ask, but not now. So far, we stay like this. And if we need to off-ramp our fees revenues, so your question was about how to off-ramp or how to take it into our accounting.
Yeah, I was just curious because you talked about realized, unrealized gains and losses, right? So I was just curious if you have like a certain point in time where you just like swap the tokens to USDC or to ETH and then.
No, so far we don't do it, so we don't have this this challenge.
But Magdalena, depending on how you get cryptos, but you can still work with brokers. You know, they've got an address, blockchain address for you. You still be in control, and they can swap directly. Then you don't have any effect of the market, if that's your point, on your daily, weekly basis. But there is a cost for sure because it's a broker. But it's one of the solutions. But for Web3 tooling, and because I was listening to JB, and I really think it depends on your needs, right? If you have a lot of transactions in many cryptos, in many different chains, you cannot do without a tool. I think it's impossible, or you're going to do big mistakes just for the reasons that JB was explaining, for the gain and losses. And I'm sorry, you cannot track it even on Excel sheet if you have too many transactions, which is not our case because we that kind. We are working with partners. So we have a lot of transactions, but it's on their side, and we just collect fees from the partner. So it's a bit easier. We just got one transaction from the partner when it comes to central exchanges. But when we work on on DeFi. For example, you can do swaps on 1inch and Paraswap on Ledger Hive, and then it's a bit more complicated because you have to collect all the fees directly to your address, but you have to see every transaction on the blockchain. So we don't have any tool, but what we did, because at the time I joined the company and at the time we started to get crypto, no really good tools were there yet, right? And I asked the data team to build things to track everything on the blockchain, right? All the transactions between ledger and customer on the blockchain. And they track it, they do dashboard. This is the way we recognize the revenue. And this is the way we can book accounting. So it's all about data on blockchain. So now we don't need a tool, but if you start now, I think it's mandatory to get a tool if you have made a transaction. If you do not, if it's just an investment because you want crypto in your treasury and you're going to buy ETH or BTC, I mean, that's fine. You can ask an advisor to help you to book, I mean, the only transaction you're going to do, and you keep it as an asset. But if you have made a transaction, you for sure you need a tool. And what we did at Ledger, when I started, because no good tool was there, we decided to screen on the market for French GAAP and IFRS, which are the two accounting standards we have to publish, who can help the company. So I found a very good accountant specialized in crypto accounting, French GAAP, and I found like one of the big four company in audit. They have a blockchain, they all have blockchain advisory department now, but they helped us a lot on how do we have to recognize, how do we have to book, and you just write procedure and you follow it, and you put it there in a procedure with data and you automated it. But you need to be helped at some point by an expert. Don't do it. If you're not an expert, don't do it on your own. I mean, for 100% you're going to do a mistake. Now, I think there is a lot of tools. In JB talked about one. I mean, for taxes and accounting, I think there is crypto now. Also, it's not so bad. But yeah, don't do it on your own because you're going to probably do mistakes. And it's about treasury, it's about cash. If you have transaction in crypto, it's about taxes as well. So if you get a control on crypto, for sure, even me, if I got a control on crypto, probably they will find something, because if you get a control, they will always find something. But if you do big mistakes in crypto, then they will control the company, they will control everything. So do not underestimate again that part. You have to control it, and I mean, at the end, you have to spend money to book it well. That's the conclusion. You cannot do it like this.
Yeah, I agree on that. I mean, I think also one of the tools that most positively impacted my life was an accounting tool. And for example, you mentioned crypto. I think it's really good, but no advertisement here. Yeah, and as I said, like invoice management was a big struggle for me. So also streamlining that was very helpful.
Before we move to the next slide, Quentin, I want to ask you a question again for companies looking to scale. Let's say, so Ledger has 700 employees, and you said the tooling will depend on the use case of the company. But let's say it's a smaller company. If you could go a little bit back in time, let's say the company has 50 or less employees. What would you say for that CFO would be like top 3 Web3 finance tools that they should be using, without necessarily mentioning the name of that company?
So it's hard to recommend without telling the name, but
okay, feel free to say the name.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really good at tools, because for crypto we don't have. Like we did a lot of things on our own with the data team I've got in my department, so it's like really homemade. But I mean, the few things you have to think about is, am I in control of the fund? Can I get it if I want? So it's about self-custody, your wallet, and you can find GBay tools or crypto, something that connect to your wallet easily and can scan all the transaction. Declare the game, and you can extract a file, something like this. You have to think about like flow, the same flow for fiat, but for crypto. The thing is, for crypto, when you have a lot of different chains, different cryptos, if you do like a bit exotic stuff on different chain, on staking, on yield, I don't think there is any tool that exists that can manage everything. So if you start with like easy stuff, like buy crypto, reevaluate crypto, do a few trades, and you see the accounting, how it goes, how it works, how do you book it, and then you can go to more special stuff. But do it slowly because it's a new asset class, and before you see the mistake you might do, you can have many months. So do it in an easy way, control, test it, and then you can move. As advice.
All right. The time is passing fast, so the third slide is on treasury management and diversification. So now, as the CFO of your company, you're required to have a business plan that optimizes treasury management. I want to ask you, what's been some of the treasury diversification strategies that you've implemented recently or you're considering to implement? And you can touch on anything pertaining to liquidity, cash flow, yield management, different diversification strategies that you've used for example, have a backup plan with banks. Feel free to touch on any of these points. Maybe I'll ask Magdalena to start.
Yeah, sure. So I think with treasury management, you kind of need to think about your objectives first. So what are your objectives? And my objectives is I want to preserve like my principal, my like money I have. I want to try to maximize the return. And at the same time, I want to maintain liquidity levels that are sufficient to meet my cash flow requirements in the near future, right? So what we've done like for the first time end of last year is we had a good old traditional budgeting process, and we actually looked at our cash requirements for the next 12 months. And personal opinion, at like immediate next 12 months, you should keep those funds kind of liquid at your like immediate disposal should anything happen. I mean, other companies might have different views, and anything beyond this 12-month horizon, you can think about how you want to put that capital to work. And before DPEC weekend, we had a lot of our funds in Aave, for example, but we withdrew everything, and we also changed our treasury management strategy a bit. So we now have more money in fiat actually across like 2 bank accounts, across 3 different currencies. And we also are looking into short-term treasury bonds. But I mean, I guess that's different from company to company.
I think I think I was touching on a bit before, but always remind that for me, crypto is treasury. It's like fiat. How do you play with fiat in your company? Do you take bets on the future? I don't think so. Fiat is fiat, so crypto can be crypto. So you can say, okay, I'm going to keep crypto in my treasury. I can keep BTC. Me, I just keep BTC and ETH at a certain level. Like I do not exceed 20% of the total treasury of the company in crypto, because I consider that as a crypto company, I'm already exposed to the market. I won't double expose the company with crypto assets, right? And I do not play with it. That's my rule. I'm not here to play. This is not the goal of the company. The goal of the company is to secure digital assets of many customers, and provide new hardware wallet, and so trading is not our activity. So My suggestion is do not play with it. This is what we do at Ledger. I only keep BTC ETH in Ledger Enterprise Solution. So we are in self-custody, we control it. And for sure, sometimes we've got good news. So like, if you look at the crypto market cap January 1st and now, so it was almost 100% raised. So we sold many and was good for the treasury, but it was not an objective in itself. We always stick to the rule of the 20%. Do not, if you set up a rule in your company, do not do exception. If you start to do something different, that means you're not respecting anymore your rule, and you start to trade in a way. You start to bet on something. And as a CFO, when you have to do, because Magdalena was talking about budgets, when you do a budget, do not forecast crypto, do not forecast the market. So, because it can be, if you have many assets in crypto and the crypto go down by 200%, 300%, because it can, then you're out of everything you were predicting. So my advice is not to play again. I would say, like, because I always do a comparison with fiat. The thing you can do in fiat is with banks, you can have deposit and get yield like 2 to 3%, like on a yearly basis. With traditional banks, it comes back with the rise of interest rates. So if we do parallel with crypto, you can do staking on your position. And now there is a Shanghai upgrade with ETH, so you can stake your ETH, for example. But I will not do more than this for me as crypto manager.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to clarify, right? I mean, we have all our crypto and stable coins currently where we're not like trading any kind of weird assets or so. And I think like one of the reasons, I totally get your point of view, right? You probably started like in fiat and then going like into crypto. For us specifically, we raised all our funds in crypto. So mostly like ETH and USDC. And at some point, like we swapped the ETH to USDC to only have like stable coins, and then imagine off-ramping millions of dollars to bank accounts. That's just not possible. Like last year, that was not possible. I spent like months getting a traditional Swiss bank account, and was actually a hard job getting that. And even now, I just can't off-ramp $1 million. Like they would immediately freeze our accounts. So I think, you know, sometimes as a crypto startup, you also need to like work with what you can do on crypto, because it's just not feasible to off-ramp all your crypto to fiat to manage it the traditional way. But I totally agree with your point of view that you shouldn't like play with the money you have, and crypto is already like risky, and we've also seen that USDC can actually depeg. So completely agree with your point, but I think a lot of crypto startups also can't manage it like the traditional way.
That was, I was about to ask you a question. Like, for example, why do you go back to USDC? To not have the market effect, right?
You go back to USDC from what?
From USD or from fiat.
So I mean,
even from BTC or ETH.
Yeah, so we only have USDC. Like we raised all our funds in ETH and USDC. Now we only have USDC. I mean, we could swap that to USDT or so, but I think that doesn't make it any better. And we now have like we have a very good process to off-ramp. But also we have a good process to off-ramp, and we now hold like a big amount of our funds in fiat because we off-ramp like regularly and over time. But I would not want to off-ramp $500,000 a day, because our bank, like they would call me and ask me where do the funds come from, and then it gets tricky, right?
No, I mean, we do some off-ramp with brokers, and that's fine with banks.
The thing just. Yeah, I mean, if you use banks like Merki Baumann and so, they're like Swiss, you can do that, but I'm very reluctant to pay like 1,000 or 2,000 euros for bank accounts a month. So actually, we really have a traditional Swiss bank account. It costs absolutely nothing. And for right now, I really like that. But yes, I mean, there are also like the more crypto-friendly bank accounts, but they come with a price tag usually.
Yeah, no, I completely understand your point. But the question after, what do you do with your USDC? How do you pay your salary in USDC?
We payroll is completely in USDC, exactly. So yeah.
We not on our side. So for me, my apology is to say, if I go from BTC to USDC, then I go to USD. I don't have any interest to keep USDC. I cannot sleep well at night if I keep USDC instead of USD. Otherwise, I prefer to keep in BTC.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I think what we're also now doing, so we have a Kraken company account, centralized, I know, but still, I think Kraken is kind of okay. So we off-ramp USDC over Kraken, we place limit orders and off-ramp over time. But I mean, yes, there is definitely a risk with USDC, and like before DPEC weekend, like we had like big portion of those funds in Aave, just to earn some yield on the USDC, but we've like withdrawn all of it for now.
Yeah, and also one really important point is, like you're managing fiat, you for sure have many banks. So if you manage crypto, you should have many wallets. Don't put all your money in a bag, because that's, I mean, it's not for you, Magdalena, it's just more for the audience to say. It's like, really think about fiat. I mean, at Ledger, I think we've got 5 or 6 banks, and we are working with all of them. If you are not going to self-custody, play with many partners. Just verify the partners for sure, but do not play with one partner. That's also why there is a lot of risk in that space, and that's why I'm recommending self-custody at the end. But at some point, if you have to do off-ramp, on-ramp, you have to go through a partner. So for sure, you will have to go to Kraken, to Coinbase, I don't know, or a broker, but it's really important to verify the partner. There is a lot of players in crypto who are registered in many countries, like exotic one, strange one, I don't want to make any judgment, but with not the same regulation, not the same law. So be sure that you work with a solid partner that can have the liquidity to give back your money, that is healthy, and you can check it by doing, meetings and stuff like this. But it's really important not to just play with like a startup who just met in like events, and it seems to be cool, it seems to be okay, but you never know. You never know. And everything can go fast in crypto. I mean, the way in and the way out. So you can really, in 24 hours, have nothing because there is an issue and you can take back your money. So
yeah,
to verify this.
We do have 5 minutes left. We didn't hear JB on this topic. We had the last slide. I'm going to skip the last slide I had because I want to still take some Q&A from the audience. Before we go to Q&A, I want to ask JB if you have anything to add on this topic.
Regarding the diversification,
anything on treasury management, the diversification, you had mentioned a tool that you've been using lately for cross-border payments as well.
At Ricos Finance, we have defined and applied a hedging strategy. And like Quentin said, it's exactly the same strategy in fiat and in crypto treasury. And because of the macroeconomic conjuncture and the currency diversification of payments that we have to proceed every month, we split our treasury in different currencies. And it's much easier to apply a hedging strategy in crypto thanks to stablecoins. But we did both in fiat and crypto, and we work with IBAN first for the fiat part.
Thank you. There's 4 minutes left. I can move on to the next slide, but I want to, probably we won't really have time to go deep in onto this topic. So I want to ask the audience for the last 4 minutes if you could write any questions that you have for our CFOs today. Please feel free to write them down now.
I mean, Andrew wrote a question here. Surely it's worth paying 1K bank fees to prevent being unbanked. I mean, totally agree, but I think you should first make the effort of getting a normal bank account without paying the ridiculous fees. But yeah, I mean, before being unbanked, surely.
Yes.
I mean, you have less risk today to being unbanked if you have crypto than before. A few years ago at Ledger, we were receiving letters from banks. Was mentioned you're working in crypto, and at the time we didn't have crypto at the time, which is fun. We were receiving letters that we're going to close your bank account because you're working in crypto. And I think now, because of FTX and mismanagement and stuff like that, it's getting very, like, all the red flags are coming when it comes to banks, to audit, to many things like that. But at the same time, they're all going in it. Even the traditional bank, even big institutions are going to NFT, to crypto in a way. So if you can prove that you're clean, you don't have any more risk to be unbanked and to. But it depends really on your country. You know, France is quite okay with crypto. I mean, we've got a subsidiary in Switzerland, seems to be quite okay also. I don't know exactly, but seems to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, Switzerland seems to be okay, like in general, right? Like in Zug especially, but with like traditional Swiss banks, it's still difficult to get a bank account usually. So if they hear crypto, they're usually out.
And you have some crypto-friendly bank emerging in Switzerland, like Signum.
Yeah, they're definitely like Signum, Merki Baumann. There are definitely crypto-friendly banks that come with a price tag, and it's definitely worth going there before you're like, otherwise you're unbanked, right? But like the more traditional banks, I think it's still difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in France it's okay. I was really surprised, but we still have 4 or 5 banks. French one, traditional one, really traditional one, like Société Générale, like really traditional one. And
but did you raise your funds in fiat? Like, did you raise from?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference. To be honest, that makes a big difference with banks.
It helps, and some of the banks invested. Actually, no, not in this one, but previously. Okay, so they are supporting the company, even if we have crypto. We are audited by EY. I mean, bookings are clean, and now we start to, you know, to have debt from that. We can play with debt, which was not the case before. It was only fundraises with private partners. So I think it changes a bit, and they all have now like tech departments, as they want to address tech partners with crypto, things like that. So it goes in the right way, but you have to be clean. If you have any issue in your audit and your bank and your bookings and stuff like this, you will be banned directly. That's the game.
Yes.
Which is normal.
And this is why it's better to have more than one bank. And to answer Andrew's question, for my part, we have a little bit of euro stablecoin. Not a big part, but yes, we have some euro stablecoin.
We do not. Good job.
We do also not.
All right. We didn't receive a lot of questions, but thanks, Andrew, for your questions. I see the time is up, so I think we still had one more slide, but we won't have time to go through it. I'd like to thank all our speakers who came today. So Magdalena, Quentin, and JB. It was really good. And I'd like to thank everyone in the audience. Thanks for your time for coming. If you have any suggestions for our next webinar, what title do you want the next webinar to be on, just feel free to drop it on Slack, and I'm going to be listening to you guys.
Okay, and last thing, I mean, if you have other questions, you do not ask now, and feel free to. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn and on my side.
You still need to join the community, otherwise no one can reach you.
Come to the Web3 CFO Club.
I'll join. No, but if you have like technical questions, I think happy to help if I can. Because I know that I was a bit alone when I started in that space with crypto, so happy to help as much as I can, depending on the topics. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much.
Hey, same to
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.